We have a major development in the Epstein files. Follow the money. That is what Congressman Jamie Raskin has not only told the American people, but now has told the CEOs of 4 major financial institutions in the letters he sent to each of them, asking them to provide the information regarding the transactions that their bank handled regarding Jeffrey Epstein and failed to report in a timely manner. Don't be part of the cover-up, he says. Hand over the information to the Judiciary Committee. Let's get this all out there. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. I've got the receipts. I've got the letters. Will these financial institutions continue to be part of the cover-up, or will we see the long-awaited financial information that could very well blow this whole thing wide open? Now take a listen. He mentions in each of his letters to these CEOs the specific testimony that Kash Patel recently gave to the Senate, where he said to Senator Kennedy, who asked, were there any other co-conspirators? Their new framework, let's say, the Trump MAGA framework, is not that Jeffrey Epstein is not a sex trafficker, but that he was the only pedophile. Again, very far-fetched, but this softball question seemed to kind of be thrown to Kash Patel, is what is now being cited in these letters by Congressman Raskin. Let's just take a listen to what Kash Patel had testified to.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
Congressman Raskin cites that Kash Patel testimony, saying they need the banks to cooperate in order to reveal who the co-conspirators are, because they are not getting that information from the FBI or the DOJ. And banks, are you going to continue to be part of the cover-up? The letters were sent specifically to JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of New York Mellon. Now, each of these banks had a duty to report any kind of suspicious financial transactions under the Bank Secrecy Act. They have to have whole institutions in place within their banks that would help root out, let's say, money laundering and other criminal practices. You could say it's similar to the duty to report that hospitals and doctors have when patients show up and they think maybe that person was subjected to abuse. Well, a similar idea with the laws around reporting for banks. Well, sure enough, these banks, which handled in total $1.5 billion in transactions for Jeffrey Epstein, did not timely file any report, despite the fact that their transactions were very suspicious. And we know also Senator Wyden from Oregon has been on top of this, as well as Jamie Raskin. So in his letter, in Raskin's letter to JP Morgan, he brings up the fact that JP Morgan didn't file the necessary transaction report that they should have. It is called a Suspicious Activity Report, or SAR. They did not file any report until after Epstein died. And then they filed a report that covered 4,700 transactions totaling $1.1 billion. Let's just take that in for a minute. All of those 4,700 transactions went through their bank, were authorized despite their system practices that are in place purposely to highlight suspicious activities. So it wasn't that those transactions weren't suspicious, because they were suspicious enough to be caught up, but only after he died. Talk about complicit. Now, if you're wondering whether or not JP Morgan had any civil liability regarding these transactions, they have in fact settled lawsuits with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. In 2023, JP Morgan paid $290 million to settle a class action lawsuit on behalf of Epstein victims, and they reached a $75 million settlement in a separate case brought by the U.S. Virgin Islands. So they, although they weren't found guilty or liable in a court of law, they obviously made a calculation that they could have some sort of liability based because they did not file those SARS transactions as they should have, allowing for Epstein to continue to abuse and traffic these children and young women. They paid millions of dollars in class actions. Now we are seeing Democrats sending this letter to JP Morgan, who has said that they want to cooperate. And he is saying, if you want to cooperate, then send us the information. The Democrats tried to get an official legal subpoena to force the banks to turn over this information. And every Republican other than Massey declined to vote for that. So this is Jamie Raskin asking them to do the right thing for their reputation, for the fact that they helped Jeffrey Epstein traffic these children because they were willing to turn the other cheek or turn a blind eye. I don't know about you, but for me, a good night's sleep is essential and a good mattress is key. Lessa has a lineup of beautifully crafted mattresses tailored to how you sleep. And Lessa has been tested and awarded Best Hybrid Mattress by the New York Times Wirecutter, which is my personal go-to for brand recommendations. And it is exclusively featured by West Elm as their go-to mattress partner. In fact, that's how I picked my mattress. I went to a West Elm. I tried them all out. It was super easy, super quick. I got the Legend Hybrid. Lessa mattresses are meticulously designed and assembled in the U.S. for exceptional quality. And it's not just about sleep, it's about impact. They donate thousands of mattresses each year to those in need, while also partnering with organizations like Clean Hub to help remove harmful plastic waste from our oceans. I feel so good enjoying their mattress while knowing I'm helping a company that's helping our environment. Go to Lessa.com for 20% off mattresses, plus get an extra $50 off with promo code MISTRIAL exclusively for my listeners. Go to Lessa.com for 20% off mattresses, plus get an extra $50 off with promo code MISTRIAL exclusive for my listeners. That's LEESA.com, promo code MISTRIAL for 20% off mattresses, plus an extra $50 off. Support our show and let them know we sent you after checkout. Lessa.com, promo code MISTRIAL. He even though goes as far in this letter to talk about a very disturbing interaction with somebody who was at JP Morgan. Evidently, documents further show that Mr. Epstein repeatedly communicated with the chief executive of the investment bank at JP Morgan, who alerted Mr. Epstein to the bank's sensitivity about his constant cash withdrawals and offered him the opportunity to alter his tactics to avoid detection. He's getting not only maybe a wink, wink, look the other way. This letter is saying how he's actually getting help to how to hide it. The letter goes on to say, even more startling, that JP Morgan executive also repeatedly intervened to ensure that JP Morgan's compliance functions would not interfere with Mr. Epstein's activities. Even more disturbing, in 2010, after Mr. Epstein pled guilty to engaging in sex with a minor, the same JP Morgan executive visited Mr. Epstein properties in New Mexico, New York, and the Caribbean. His email correspondence with Mr. Epstein after one of these visits suggests he may have become complicit in Mr. Epstein's sex trafficking operation. He wrote, and this is really disturbing, he wrote, quote, "That was fun. Say hi to Snow White." And Mr. Epstein chillingly responded by asking which character he would like next. To which the JP Morgan executive responded, quote, "Beauty and the Beast." This is all in the letter that Congressman Raskin sent to JP Morgan. Raskin not allowing Trump and Johnson and MAGA to distract from these Epstein files, from the 1,000 victims, children and young women who were sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and were able to continue to do so because the banks allowed it to happen. And so he is asking in his letters for them to do the right thing, to hand over the transaction information that they have. And it's not just JP Morgan. He goes bank by bank, calling them out for their complicit or their interactions, their failure to report. Raskin calls out Bank of America in the letter to them, saying that they failed to timely flag transactions worth $170 million between Leon Black and Jeffrey Epstein, only filing them years later. And in his letter to the Bank of New York Mellon, they did something very similar. They did not timely report $378 million of transactions. They only flagged them and filed the SARS years after he died. Then Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank had to pay millions of dollars in settlements as a result of their transactions with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, their compliance department evidently did raise concerns about the transactions that they saw between Jeffrey Epstein and others, including the fact that his lawyer withdrew $800,000 in 4 years, but just below the $10,000 reporting requirement, which is a red flag for money laundering and other criminal activities. They also asked Jeffrey Epstein and his lawyers about sending millions of dollars to women with Eastern European surnames. And the answers they got from Epstein and his lawyers were that they were going to things such as, quote, tuition or rent, things that would normally be triggering the fact that these types of transactions sounds like sex trafficking. Well, the concerns were raised not only to Epstein and his lawyers, but up the branch. And evidently, it says in this letter that Jeffrey Epstein said, he says, Deutsche Bank executives merely asked Mr. Epstein about the veracity of the recent allegations and appear to be satisfied by Mr. Epstein's response. This is after internally the concerns were raised to the executives. The letter goes on to say, noting almost comically that they were, quote, comfortable with things continuing, end quote, particularly given the, quote, number of sizable deals recently. So as they say, follow the money. And these banks were willing to not follow the money because they were making money. But we have Democrats like Raskin and Wyden saying this is the solution to the Epstein files and sending letters to these banks, making this information public, asking them to not be complicit and continue to be part of the cover-up, but help the victims and shed light and hand over the transactions and financial information that they have. Be sure to free subscribe if you haven't already so you can get updates on this and many others to come.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.